3 pranks to pull on a real estate investor. Hi, I'm Phil Pustiowski with FreedomMentor.com. I'm a full-time real estate investor, real estate mentor and coach to many of the most successful real estate investors all across North America, and I have a tremendous amount of experience. I've run into all kinds of situations, and that's where these ideas come from. So let's have some fun. It's April Fools. All right, so the first thing to consider is that the lie people are most likely to believe is the one they really, really want to believe. Now, for real estate investors, there's 2 really key components in most deals. Number 1 is that motivated seller that really wants to get rid of their home. And number 2 is the type of buyer that can move quickly. They have a big down payment. And perhaps if you're offering maybe rent to own or owner financing terms, they're more than willing to do those and pay top dollar for the property and give a big down payment because they normally can't get a loan through a bank. Okay, so that's where our first 2 pranks come into play. All right, number 1 is going to be our fake motivated seller. Fake motivated seller. And the way that works is, and again, I should give this disclaimer real quick. Please don't blame me for what I'm about to share with you. I'm just doing this for informational purposes. It's up to you if you ever end up doing this to an agent or investor friend of yours. Okay, so to create a fake motivated seller, you really have to know something about real estate, first of all. The more you know, the easier this is to pull off. And there's an app called Sly Dial. And what this app does is it allows you to call someone and you can create whatever callback number you want. And depending on how good you are at pranks, you could really go to the nth degree on this. But the simple concept is you call them up and Sly Dial can allow you to change your voice a little bit too, I think. Or there's another app that might be able to do it. I think it is Sly Dial that does that. And so you can call up, and that's where you'd say, hey, I really want to get rid of my home. And then if you do a really good job, you actually line up what the property address is. And you go through the whole spiel. I just need to get rid of it now. I owe this much. And it would be awesome if you looked up on the public records to know how much they really owed. So that way, if your investor or agent friend tries to look it up to see if it's for real, everything matches up. I mean, you can go crazy here. I mean, you can go to the level of actually setting up an appointment at the house, right? So they show up to the house, you know, they knock on the door, and the person says hello, you know, and then they get there, of course, and they're like, well, you said you wanted to sell your house. I already talked to you, and we had a good conversation. Do you remember? They're like, who are you? All right, so prank number 1 is the fake motivated seller. You use Sly Dial, and you just act like a motivated seller. I mean, really take it up a notch, right, if you really know what you're doing. Okay, number 2, closely related to this, would be a fake buyer, but I want to give you an example of this because this happened to me personally. I don't know if it was a prank or not, but this is what happened. So this is how you could go to an entirely new level on a prank fake buyer. Okay, so once again, you use Sly Dial. But this time what you do is you set up an appointment to go look at one of the houses that this individual has. So obviously they'd have to have a deal for this to work, right? So this is what happened to me. So I had this property I was selling on a rent to own. This person said he had $7,000 to put down. He needed to move into a place in 2 weeks, and he really needed to look at a property on that afternoon. So I told him, all right, great, I will meet you at the house. So I get to the house, and he calls up and he says, hey, I'm running a few minutes behind. Is that okay? And I'm like, oh yeah, no problem, no problem. All right, a few minutes go by, he calls, he goes, man, I'm having a little trouble finding this place. That house was kind of hard to find, so it seemed very believable. I'm like, yeah, okay, where are you right now? And he's like, well, I'm passing, he's kind of naming some landmarks, and I said, oh, I know where you're at. Okay, you gotta keep going about 3 miles, and then what's gonna end up happening is you're gonna see a big intersection with a Target, you're gonna take a left on that road, and that's called Murfreesboro. He goes, oh, okay, gotcha, I gotcha. All right, so about 10 minutes go by, I don't hear from him. I'm like, what on earth? He's got to be there. I don't care how many lights he hit. He's got to hit that turn. And so I call him back, and he's like, yeah, man, I think I just passed that Target. Oh, yeah, you passed the Target. So this goes on for like, this is not a joke, an hour, where he's like, oh, man, where is this thing? And he kept naming stuff that sounded so real. And here's what eventually happened. An hour and a half has gone by. He hasn't showed up to the house, and then he just stops picking up the phone. He just stopped. I never heard from the guy again, ever. Never heard from him again, ever. So, now, in that case, I don't know if it was real or not, but if you want to just completely mess with a friend of yours, That's what you do. I mean, you'd have to like always dial back out because you could never do the slide dial where he's dialing you back in. But you dial it and say, oh man, I'm taking a left here, and then you call back and you say, hey, I'm late, I'm lost, I don't know what's going on. You can do that for like an hour and just keep going to the point where your friend gets madder and madder and madder. Oh man, that would be fun. Okay, so that happened to me in real life. I don't know if that was a prank or not, but that would be a great prank to put on somebody. They would not think it's funny though. So again, I go back to don't blame me if these things end up totally pissing somebody off. Okay. Number 3, this one could apply to any homeowner that's in an HOA. If you don't know what an HOA is, that's a homeowners association, or they're also, if it's a condo, it's a condo association. Okay, so condo associations, homeowner associations, a lot of them have in their bylaws all kinds of rules that dictate what they will allow their participants to do or not do. And some of them are just ridiculous. They're just so over the top in all the rules they have. Well, I did this to a friend of mine and it didn't work out very well, but I'll explain what I did. Maybe you can do it in a little bit softer so it doesn't end up getting you in trouble and him in trouble. All right, so these HOAs send out these letters that'll say things like, okay, your trash needs to be brought back to your house. Your trash barrel was out in front of the road for 2 days, and that's against our ordinance 73B, section 5, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what I did was I created a letter, and you know the way letters work, you can put whatever the return address is. You can just put whatever address you want. So I put the address of the HOA management firm. Of course, I put his information as the one I was mailing it to, and I made the letter look like it was coming from the HOA. And I wrote a letter that said that your flower pots were positioned in the wrong way, and that's a fine of $50. And please make your checks payable to such and such association. So again, it was a ridiculous thing, and I figured the guy would pick up on the fact. It was the husband of one of my wife's friends. I figured he was smart enough to pick up on the idea that it's obviously a joke, because there's no way an HOA is going to complain about the positioning of a flower pot. Okay, he didn't pick up on this. So I kid you not, he gets the letter and he's like, what is this? He calls up the HOA and they go, we didn't send that. Oh, this must be a scam. And literally they called a detective and they called the police, and they were trying to figure out, yeah, how many other homeowners have got this? Is this a scam? Is this... And of course, he's telling me this later. When I asked him, I said, hey, did you get any complaints? Man, the HOA's been really mean lately. Man, they've been sending out stuff for all kinds of stuff. And this is how I learned about all this. So he's telling me this story, and I start laughing. I said, you called the police? How could it be a scam? The money was going back to the HOA. How could there be some third party? That doesn't even make sense that it'd be a scam. And anyways, he felt so stupid, he did not laugh. Not at all. In fact, they didn't talk to us for like 6 months after this. But what you could do is this, because this has happened to me recently on a deal I did in an HOA. I changed the roof, and I didn't get HOA approval on the color. I just used the same color that every other house had. And the problem was the roof manufacturer was different. And so what happened was someone drove by, I guess, in the HOA and saw that it was a new roof, because it was pretty obvious. It went from an awful looking roof to brand new. And I guess, I don't know, they got a ladder and they looked at the actual shingle makeup and they said, hey, this is the wrong manufacturer. They sent me a letter and said, hey, you didn't get approval from the HOA. You may have to strip off and get rid of that entire roof, because that didn't meet our approval. I remember getting that letter going, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. And that would have been like $8,000 cost. So that's a good prank too. If you send an HOA and one of your friends is a real estate investor has just renovated a property, to send over something from the HOA like, hey, you didn't get approval on that roof, you didn't get approval on that paint job, because they'll be livid, right? Because they just spent all that money to fix it up. All right. So there's your prank number 3, is to mess with them with the HOA. And if you do it to a friend like I did, tell them it was a prank. Don't let it sit out there, because I just let it sit out there for weeks. I didn't realize what was stewing in the background as the detective was looking into it. Of course, they couldn't pick it up that it was me, because there was no evidence that had anything to do with me. All right, okay. So I'm going to give you a bonus, all right? I know it's 3, but let me give you 4. Number 4 is the free signs. Okay, so y'all probably know that one of the techniques I use to find rent-to-own tenant buyers is I use a sign like this. Oh, there you go. Okay, so these signs, depending on the municipality you're dealing with, they might be against sign ordinances, so you have to be careful when you put these up. And number two, sometimes they just really tick people off. Maybe it's a competitor, maybe it's a homeowner that is just tired of signs out there on the edges of these intersections. So one time I got a phone call, and the person left on the voicemail, he said, "Get rid of your rent-to-own signs. If you don't, I'm going to take every sign I can find, I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to write free pit bull puppies, and I'm going to put them in neighborhoods where people want free pit bulls, and you're going to get phone calls to the point where you have to ruin your phone, you have to end your phone number." I thought this was a joke on the voicemail because it was so detailed and so kind of out of the ordinary. I thought it was just funny, so I didn't really think much of it. I kid you not, this person found, I don't know, 15, 20 of these rent-to-own signs. He turned them around, he put free pit bull puppies on there, put the phone number, and I don't even know what neighborhoods he put them in. All I know is hundreds of phone calls, literally hundreds and hundreds. And the signs didn't get ripped down, which is, I think, is because he put it in really bad parts of town or something. I don't know where he put them. But they stayed up. They stayed up so long. I mean, we're talking hundreds of voicemails. "Yeah, I'm calling about the free pit bull puppies." I had to get rid of the phone number. I kid you not. I had to buy a new phone number for my rent-to-own advertising because of the free pit bull puppies. Alright, so that was your bonus number 4. Again, all these are pretty serious kind of pranks, but if the people you're dealing with have a great sense of humor, hopefully they'll laugh about it. Alright, well, I'm Phil Pustiowski with FreedomMentor.com. That had nothing to do with real estate investing as far as learning what to do. If you do want to learn how to be a successful real estate investor, I have some amazing resources. Number 1, I've got this new book out, Real Estate Investing Gone Bad. Fantastic. It's 21 true stories of what not to do when investing in real estate. This was my original book, #1 bestseller for many years. How to be a real estate investor. It's had several updates, so it's current. Fantastic book. Also, check out more of my videos on this channel. I have the most successful, most popular, most viewed YouTube channel on real estate investing in history. So you'll see that. You'll see the millions and millions of views, and you'll see why people love these videos. And also, if you want to learn more about how to work with me directly, not with pranks, but with real estate investing, you can go to freedommentor.com/apprentice and apply to work with me as your mentor one-on-one. I'd love to connect with you if I've got availability in your area, because right now we have done an amazing job of filling up many of the spots of America. There's plenty still available, but don't be upset if you can't get in simply because I've already got an apprentice there. All right, thank you so much for watching. If you've got any prank ideas, put them at the bottom here. I want to hear about it. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.